Alright, this is making of July 28th. Wrapping up the scenes with the bridge in book 3 here. Just to do the bridge scenes first, because there weren't very many of them. Otherwise, we wouldn't have jumped on ahead, but we kind of had to. So, yeah, the timeline is funky here, but is it really? Because if they were traveling to them was light speed, it would take them 4.2 years to get to Alpha Centaurus, or the other planet. They said that in the pilot. And that would be about 4 light years in a year. Yeah, that would be what's going on. But to them, only months. Yeah, it's a little odd, but it's subliminal, superliminal. Okay, then they got to go to this other planet. They got to go to the Hadon planet, which I put in the Centauri constellation just to make it easier to find, because it kind of would have to be related to that. Also, the Invid homeworld would have to be Barnard, as to be close enough to the Sol that none of these planets are that far off, basically. They have to be pretty close by. Under 10 light years off. So about 10 light years off. So Sen-10A, after they left 2029 Hadon, they would have traveled to the other Sen-A. Should have been about 8 years. So it would be 2038 when they get there. 2038 when they get to Hadon, Hadon's planet. And then another 11 years to travel back a little bit to Barnard, which would put them in the Sol system for Barnard. Now, the reason that they jump back and it's only months is because they fixed the engines at the end. So it's 2049 instead of being another 50 years later. It's only 2049. So that's how it works. So yeah, Barnard. So 2049. So they fixed the engines when they left the Invid planet, basically. But they had sent the teenagers ahead months earlier, and they were in their liminal drives, and they arrived. So actually was just a few months in the last story. So it was 2049 when they arrived on the Invid homeworld, not 2038. Because of that other planet they stopped at. And in the books, they just were at the other planets immediately. It never really made sense. They went to like 7 of them, and they couldn't have done that. They would have been tens of dozens of years later, and the expedition would have arrived in 2030 at this other planet, and 2040 at the Invid planet, and it would have been like way later. So it is kind of following it in that it's way later. So yeah, 2038, 2049. Yeah, they would have never gotten home, which is consistent with the altered timeline of that, the Mega Road and all that. But yeah, so, but to them, those months that went by were only months, and it's about a year that went by for them. So, but then that 9 years on the end, where they went back from the other planet, when they went to Barnard, and when they sent the kids back to Earth from Barnard, for them 7 years went by. So Dana is now 7 years older, and they are not. So that's weird. Yeah, time dilation going on. I'm not sure what to do with that, but that's how it ends. Yeah, trying to fudge the timeline. If you went and added up the timelines and stuff, you don't have to, though. You can take the story at what it was and just say, yeah, this story ends just after the events of 6 years after, 4 or 5 years after the Invasion, but a year before the 2050 scene at the end of Shared Hallucinations. Yeah, it's the year before that, which it all lines up. Yeah. So the Sentinels really couldn't have happened in the short time span it did. It couldn't have in the books. It doesn't make sense. Here it does. Makes a little more sense. Only if they left Optera and immediately were actually able to travel faster than light, and they got back to Earth in actually months on their end, and then it works. Otherwise, it doesn't, and it's 2056 or something. But he said, from your perspective, it is. So there's the caveat. Anyway, it kind of doesn't work, but it kind of does a little better than the books did. That each book roughly takes place in 2029 for the first one, 2038 for the second one, and 2049 for the third one. So, yeah. So it's probably actually Dana saying it's 2060 something. Technically, if you wanted to be anal about it, 2060. But she doesn't. She says 2051. So. In the script, she said 2031, but doesn't add up. So 2051. 20 years have gone by. Yeah. So they weren't quite going the speed of light. They were going under the speed of light each time. Just a little bit. And it was throwing off the timeline. It makes sense. It does. And then they sped up when they went home. They got a kick back to Earth. Yeah, in months instead of years. To them. Yeah. It makes sense. Also, those are months that were spent on each planet, too, for that matter. They probably spent a year in total on all the planets. Yeah. 65 episodes, yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, that's the review of the bridge scenes. Yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, this is for book 3. Yeah, the stars in Robotech don't matter at all. Yeah, because in the Sentinels and the Robotech saga, they made the star of Tyrol and Phantoma so far off in the galaxy. There's no way the SDF-1 or the SDF-3 could have ever gotten there at all. It's a star, a constellation thing set across, and it's also a blue giant. Yeah, it's not that star. That makes no sense. It should be a close by star, semi-viable star. It's either Sirius or Centaurus. It's right there. So yeah. Also, yeah, the Invid homeworld is even further off. And Hadon is unknown, somewhere off there. All part of the Tyresian Masters Empire. The way they describe the Phantoma system in the Robotech wiki and stuff, it's described like Cirrus. It's basically a bright white star with a habitable zone about 3 AU out, and there's a Jupiter-like planet orbiting it. We decided in this universe to make the science make a little more sense, even though it kind of doesn't. And the math that I fudged there still kind of works, so I'm gonna go with it. Don't change it. Yeah, 20 years goes by in the 3 Sentinels books. Because if it's just 10, then it doesn't make sense. Their hyperdrive thing. If it is just 10 and it's 2031, then their jump point from Tyrol, which is in the Centaurus system in this version, would be almost instantaneous. They're able to get to this other planet instantly within weeks, and then to Barnard in the finale instantly. I made the final planet Barnard just because it's a red M-class red dwarf, a cool red dwarf. It's older than the sun, and it works. So yeah, so let's make Hadon 5 Cirrus, and because it's a machine planet anyway, even though technically the other ones are further off and they just can't get there. So it'd have to be something like Cirrus or Wolf 359 or something like that. You can make it Wolf 359. That also works. But it's not canon with Robotech. It's canon with its own thing. Centaurus is said to be the Transformer system as well. They kind of hinted that in there. Because it's close by. Also how the fold drives on the Cybertron work like that. It's got to be close by. Or maybe that's where the Hadon planet. You could do the Star Blazers thing, and you could say, all right, the whole Master System, the Invid system, and the Spheresian system is Alpha Centauri, and they're zipping around in there in 2029 and they come home a year later. You could do that. You could totally do that. You could say that too. So yeah, so when you watch the movie, don't assume that. You can assume that the years are funky in the episode, and that it could be 2031, could be 2051. To them, it's 2031, but to the people that went through the warp and came back to Earth, it's 20 years later for them. So what? But yeah. Um, but yeah, it doesn't really matter as long as the story works on that level, and it speeds them ahead so they don't encounter the Robotech from our timeline. They don't encounter 2044. They encounter in 2049. It's a little later. So it avoids them getting back, and it avoids the other timeline, and it fixes the Mega Road timeline. It works better. That at the end of the story you've been watching this whole time. The first one is 2029 roughly. The middle one's 2039 roughly, 38, 39. And the last one is 2049. And then the timeline works, and then it matches up because it couldn't have in the Robotech universe. It would have been 5 years here and 5 years there and 10 years there and 11 years there, and going to these other planets in the Sentinels universe. But they weren't thinking. They were thinking, well, this is, these are the Macross guys that also worked on Star Blazers. Some of them did, and they were like, we're not paying attention. They can travel to another galaxy even. They have that ability with the Argo. It can go to another galaxy. The Yamato can go to another galaxy and come back. It didn't even occur to them in that 70s original show. Like, just say it's another solar system. It's easier. Why does that have to be another galaxy? That makes it even worse. Like the Gamelons could go anywhere they want to. So yeah, making the other thing like that. Also, in the Macross saga, they didn't care about that either. So you go to the Macross saga, and they're like, this is only in the American version with the books, where they were like, oh no, we want the Sentinels, and go to these other planets in the Sentinels, and that's what kept them going offhandedly, while these other two series we cribbed from the Macross people that had nothing to do with each other. Now, where we did that, well, then we just kept going. Not thinking that, the Sentinels doesn't actually work chronologically. It can't. So this version is actually better chronologically, because it's like, oh, okay, 10 years between books. All right. That's fine. That works. 8-10 years between books. 7 years on the end. And we're presuming that when they leave the Invid planet through the space warp, that the Invid planet kicks them into super light speed. So they actually have not lost another 7 years. They've actually been kicked ahead. So they're actually arriving when they should. And everything's all fine. So I tried to do the math and fudged it. But yeah, it totally works. So note that in the making of that, it doesn't really matter where they are and how many years have passed, because to the people watching the show, this story with these characters, it's only a year that's gone by between book 1, book 2, and book 3. About a year. Just about a year. So, first of all, this is the rendering the raw footage into blocks on this thing for the Robotech. It's Transformers Episode 2. Render the raw footage, and then you edit that raw footage, chop it up, and then you put the raw footage in as a. Then you chop it up and whittle it down to just the good takes, and usually a 2-hour and something minute story is whittled down to about 12 minutes, usually. Sometimes 20, usually 12. So you have like a bunch of those segments go together, and then you make a episode out of it. But probably this one's going to be closer to 20, because there's 6 roughly 25-minute episodes together to form a 3-hour story. Photoshop 2023 died, so we're using the 15 one from like decades ago. Apparently they're having a lot of issues with Photoshop 2023 elements with their codec and stuff. That's lovely. and didn't tell anybody, and then it crashes eventually if you have it for over a year, and it's been a year, so just about. We also have Star Trek Lower Decks starts in a couple of days, and while rendering these, it's really slow on Photoshop 15, but it works. Rendering these pieces together, there is no reason not to start filming part 3. Story 3. Go in there, well, this is rendering, instead of just watching other YouTube videos, and start on part 3 and do shots of it and do the thing. The online shows and stuff like that in the future, down the road, around November or December, we'll move out of the studio entirely and go up to Roseville, and the studio is gone, so the Queen Bee Studios will be gone. But for now, we're going to make the Robotech Season 3, and Mark's Cards and I discussed slated to launch the Chimera immediately afterward. The Starship Locations Chimera thing immediately afterward. So including our old Star Trek stories that were added to it, the Fearful Symmetry and the Arbiter, now called the Arbiter of Key Draconis, and it's 2404 in that timeline, and that's just an update on that. That's next, and then Distant Destinies in November. We should be able to get through all of Starship Locations, even with 15, because we used it before. And we should be able to complete that in October, the whole season. It might take a little longer than that. Maybe October, November. Distant Destinies, the novel, can wait until over there, or what, doesn't matter. But exciting convention news and possibilities. There is a Comic Collectors Super Toy show, a Super Toy Fair and Show, about a month from now in October. So you will see Calcat and Mark's Cards there at the toy show. So that'll be cool. That'll be the last toy show here. We'll be doing that. So that'll be exciting. We're not guests. We're just going to be there. If we go back to these conventions in the summer in the future, we will have to stay at the hotel because we won't have a place. So we'll be there on the set. That would be fairly lavish that weekend. The big ones happen, and if we do that, then we'll cover the entire thing with a neat laptop or something. Put it all on a jump drive. We'll in the room, because that would be cool. I'm not sure how we're gonna do that, but So this is rendering here, and we'll figure it out. But the toy show is the last thing on there. Photoshop 2023 skipping itself. We thought maybe it was a Windows update. It wasn't that. It's a Windows 10 computer. It has Windows 7 architecture. It has a solid state drive, and although it's an i5 Pentium processor, it acts like an i3, and it doesn't have a camera. And it doesn't have vlogging ability, so every time we do a blog, we have to record the blog ahead of time on one of these Sony Vixia cameras, actually Panasonic Vixia cameras, and then download that and edit it. So nothing is live at the show, Calcat show, even though there is no more Calcat show. The alleged finale will be on New Year's Eve, but if that. The Calcat show technically is a show ended several years ago, but it kept doing channel updates. The processor's going funky right here, but the other cast people, if they find a place. We have to continue the blogging and the stories up there. It might be possible that we don't have a script or any story. It might be possible that Grandma Knapp's book, Blessings Deferred, they were talking about that, and kicking that around as a story idea kind of thing. Do also in the future, and of course the Star Trek Destinations. The final season of Chimera will be of Chimera will be, at least here, will be uh, not be turned into a novel, because it's basically cribbing from stories from the novels, the Cillian space. So it's because it's cribbing from Cillian space. There's no reason to repeat the information. So there's one about the Martial Sportists, and it basically covers some of that station stuff, but it's done in a more episodic form, a two-parter. There's one of those in there from Planet Far Out. We've already done that. There's of course Fearful Symmetry and The Arbiter. I've done that, but they've never been done as a show before, so they've updated. There's the Mob Planet one, where we took the premise of Quentin Tarantino's story and put it in there, and there's just the premise, because he didn't actually write an episode of Star Trek. He just thought, oh, it'd be cool to have a mob planet and do that, but it would be like Pulp Fiction in space. We did that. It was an episode. There's a Roman planet one. There's a we mix it in with a TV planet one from Cillian space, because they're kind of connected. Because they had a television telecast thing, sort of an early version of Battle Royale or Hunger Games going on. Also similar to that Greek planet and the Triskelion planet from the classic Trek. There's something like that. It's something like that. There's Visit to Flodi near the finale, where it's an alternate universe that's created by the Martial Sportius people where they win, and in that future there's everything's going on. There's elements of the Mike Gamelt stories, but heavily edited into Mike Fennell, so that he's in there. Because he did think of Rutherford and Tendi, so why not? And Tendi does return, the Tendi from 20 years in the future, from our current time period, 2404. And I'm not sure what this, I guess this is a behind-the-scenes channel update, more so than a Chimera update. And so we have, for this channel, this is this channel's update. This one, not the Calicat one. I mean, Talking Pointless ended a year earlier, and Cowpoke decided to do a finale, because we don't like it when a show just ends and there's no finale. We will complete Robotech Meets the Transformers. Will be completed in September. So we're in September now. It takes about 7 or 8 days to compile and do an episode, and about 3 or 4 more to put it together. And then we won't right on to the Star Trek thing. So that's exciting. So the Star Trek thing. Also, the Star Trek thing will be utilizing action figures from the previous generations, because we don't have anybody else. They didn't make other ones. They did make some new ones, though. They did make some actual legit Star Trek Prodigy figures. So we actually have legitimate Star Trek Prodigy figures. Or we can actually put out a Zero and the other girl. But do we want to? Do we want to use our version of the girl? Just because she would be older, and in this universe, she'd be 20 years older, because that's the way it works in 2404. Yeah, might do that. It would be weird if it was the other one. The Calicat show ends, and we're not making any money out here. So. We used to have a lot more subscribers. I keep saying that, but there's no proof. Because if you look back at the engine thing, you look back, you can use the different things to look back, see how many subscribers subscribed. And it doesn't look like they have a lot of subscribers for years, but it has been years. I think there used to be more on the other channel. But we have a lot of videos. And other channels notice us, and they crib some of our stuff, but now we've newer videos, we've made it so that they can't just crib them. They got to ask permission to use them, which is good, because on occasion we've had people like just go viral with something that we did, and, and it's like, wait a minute, we had nothing to do with that. That's the reason Critical Vitriol is in Silly Trek. It was one of those guys under his real name. We wouldn't say his real name. Decided to use some of our clips in the Channel Awesome retribution scandal thing. Then claimed, it was the music afterward. I had to edit the video. No, you got several people that weren't in Channel Awesome I was not included. I was included, but I shouldn't have been. And PM'd him and said, dude, you have to take my footage out of there. I didn't give you permission to use that. I have nothing to do with Channel Awesome. I was a fan. Yeah, you can't use that. Yeah, you had to take it out. Oh. But yes, which led to the hilarious two-part episode of it. Well, one-part episode of that Groundhog Day type episode in the first season of Starship Locations. Well, Chimera was the pilot. Starship Chimera was the pilot in 2019, and then the others were later. So yeah. And then Starship Locations is the series because Chimera was similar to other chimeras. So it was confusing, so it was called Starship Locations to clarify. All right, this is something else. And somebody, an unknown other person, is doing like reviews of little blurbs from YouTube on their Google site, reviewing our stuff when it comes out. So that's cool. Probably a subscriber. It's sort of like when we had a couple of we do have a few subscribers. We had a couple of them show up at a convention as Cowpoke and Kelly and stuff. Said, "Oh, nice Cowpoke costume, whatever." But they were subscribers, so clearly they would have been they would have been local. Yes. So yeah, it was more promotion for the Cowcat show. Yeah, there's a lot of videos on the reviews channel and a lot of videos. So when we go to the conventions, they know, oh, that's the Cowcat guy that does the reviews. He doesn't have any background characters because he keeps saying he demonetized by showing clips from videos, and he can't do that. So it would be nice if they subscribe more. That'd be nice. But yeah, I can't show video clips from those things. Oh, and also in an example of current modern Pixels is the name of the software that's used to the pictures where we get the actual live footage from. The space footage from Robotech meets the Transformers. A lot of it is from Pixels through Google, and some of the freeware shot of the planet Phantoma with the rings has shown up all over the other sites. So it's a nice callback to. We have Anton Pevov using it. We got Isaac Arthur using it. We got John Michael Gaultier using it. They're all using that footage from the Pixels people, the planet, and it's Phantoma. It's sort of Phantoma, but to them it's probably Pandora from. Yeah, so they're using it. It's not really Pandora though. It's someone's artist conception of a planet with rings and moons, and it's blue. And then there's the red one, which is the red planet, the Proxima planet one. And then there's the of course the Invid one and the mechanical planet one and all that footage. And it used to be that we would get our footage from Gautier's or Arthur's site because he would get the freeware from Pixels or Pixel Bay or whatever. We got it from the same place. And yeah, so we would put in the credits in Transformers Mush and the other one and say like, oh well, we got it off Gautier and the other guy and Isaac Arthur, and we got it off them. Here's where we got it. So we don't know where they got it. So it turns around, comes around. They took the footage that we have and put it up on there. They're not making any money on it because it's freeware, and that's fine. We didn't create it. We got it from somewhere too, and they didn't create it either. As Isaac Arthur once pointed out in a PFM, I don't own the footage of the space shots in my videos. I get them from here. Go get some. That's basically what he said. Go get some. Yeah, they're free. They're not mine. I don't own them. You're free to do them if you want them. Sort of that Elmer Fudd voice. But yes, Gautier as well. He's like, oh yeah, I get them from that other thing. No, I've got some of yours. Haha. Great. Well, yeah, you do. But it's not mine. It's pixel based. So that's fine. But yeah, so yeah, actually it'd be funny if they put up the electrocuting moon thing that we created and put that with the fireworks. That'd be neat. We created that. I created that on the computer. Gautier, I was not combined with Gautier at all. I created the footage of the electric moon. Yeah, the program that no longer works. Great. It was too much for the the computer it crapped itself. So when you edit these videos together, you have to take all the pieces, edit the chunks, and then edit down the chunks. It's the only way to do it without it crapping itself. So let's go on with episode 3 and see what happens. Well, this is almost 5%, but it's like the last one. It said 5% for an hour, so I don't think it'll be done if we do like a few, scenes. And going on to the next Robotech, the Sentinels story. The third one, Destinies. Yes, right on ahead, Destinies, and yeah, they go to Optera. We got all the way there. We're up at Optera now. Yeah, the finale, the last, we're gonna do it. We're gonna be able to say like, okay, there's a version of the Sentinels out there. It's Transformers meets Robotech Sentinels, Robotech meets Transformers Sentinels, but it is an homage to the Jack McKinney Sentinels books, which never got produced because now that Arminder Grama is dead, Jack and long dead is Carl Mashak. They're like, oh yeah, we don't need to keep the rights to this anymore. At this company, we don't know why that guy held on to them, but he's gone, so who cares? Here's the rights to the Robotech stuff. Yeah, they really needed to make more of them back in the day. They really needed to have and the masterpiece ones are museum pieces. They're kind of crap. For $200, I expect a toy back in the day. I think I got that thing on the red Veritech. Smaller than the Jing Robos. Smaller than those. Smaller than the Legios. The Legios, the banged up blue Legios from the last one. That's the Jing one. And it's still kind of intact. So that thing is really well built for something. That's from the 80s. That's from like 84 or 85. And that thing is all messed up and faded, but it's still intact. So why didn't they build the masterpieces like that? Because that would have been worth the $200 that they were back then. Back in the day, now they'd be $500. But they didn't do that. Then they built other ones like that. And they didn't do that. And the Super Ostrich has been rebuilt several times, but never correctly. They made it Super Lynx or something. It was like Transformers Adventure or something. It was like not a very good toy. But yeah, they like that. The Robotech thing. There were comments in the Robotech thing. I got comments. Some of the which were like, why did you paint your, well, why not? Yeah, it's weird. Some people have the weirdest ideas about things. If you bought something, you have every right to paint it or destroy it on film or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's not going to depreciate in value because it's something you still own. So what's the point? It's like I painted up the Robotechs to look like the Rebel Robotechs because Tim and Jim and John and I thought it was a cool idea, and we painted them up. So, what kind of a critique is that? I mean, they were yellow anyway and falling apart. The Super Ostrich toy itself, the current one that I made from a Jetfire, fell apart during this movie, the last one, and had to be like used parts from other Jetfires to repair him. His arms and hands are different. His back piece is different. He's the ship of Odysseus. He's going to be a completely different Jetfire by the time he falls apart more. But yes, this is not so much a review of. There probably won't be an after review, or it would be very short for a part 2, just because it's kind of already there. When we get there, I watch it. When I watch it, once it's finished. But yeah, let's get on with part 3, and Super Ostrich stuff's kind of interesting. People that it's like well, that one thing that I mentioned on there too, on the making of. Those Chronicles of Narnia movies were pretty cheesy and bad, and they bought a bunch of the figures when it was out at Target. When it was new, I could have children. You could have had kids. It could have been Sarah or Philip and my niece and nephew. They wanted them. Could be. They were into that. It was probably for them. This store clerk guy. He was in his 20s. He was very annoyed that I was going to buy toy doll action figures. Like wild hairpin's butt or something. Oh, why are you buying the figures for this show? It sucks. Like, well, thanks. I want to buy your toys then. But I did. I bought them. Yeah, it's like the guy was actually mad that I was buying Narnia figures. It really disgusted him. Must have been a right winger or something. Actually, a right winger would be all, oh, it's evangelical, and he would like it. You know, it's kind of weird. It's like rich evangelicals are hypocrites. So if he was one, then he should have liked it because it's Narnia. It's Chronicles of Narnia. You should like that. But yeah, it's like, well, years later, I will end up using this in a movie. It appeared, actually, the lion appeared in Transtech. If you go back to the original Transtech, he was the pilot on the Autobot ship of Sandstorm. And in that one, he was actually played by Tim. In this one, it's a fake. It's not him. It was actually Tim. He went, "I'll do the Aslan lion." Oh, it was him, and he was all, I have to say, fire the helmsman, fire the guns. Oh, yeah. So that was actually him. So yeah. He was also Sandstorm that day. He's like two of them. But yeah, this weird cameo. That was Tim's cameo. From Starcrackers. Oh, yeah, he did much better acting when he didn't have to have the camera in front of him. When it was just, I'm playing a character, but you're not filming me. You're filming my little action figure. So yeah, this thing is slow. This last 5 minutes have been sitting there. 20 more minutes. I'm gonna let it do that. Do some scenes. Starting off with part 3. So let's do it. So I'm sure this is a little funky, making a note. I'm sure it's a little funky because the scale is weird. When Exodor leaves the pod, and when Exodor is found, it looks like they're right in front of him, and they'd see him. But they couldn't have. That couldn't have happened like that. So what I'm going to do is reshoot just the pod opening. And you don't really see them in the shot, because otherwise it looks like they flew off and kicked the pod away and then didn't notice Exodor at all. And yeah, so I'll try to improve that by having a pod come apart. And yeah, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to open up, and he's going to sort of fall out. Okay, so action. Okay. Well, it looks sardonic and evil. Look, see the light's not on me. Yeah, so we have what's happening here is, near as I can tell, is you remember in the other episode, or where in the first 40 minutes or 50 minutes or so, we were introduced to Ritter and his power to go through subspace and be phase shifted. It was mentioned a few times. Well, that's what's happened here. Then this makes sense. So it's like that Star Trek TNG episode where they were, or Geordi and the lady were, Ro were floating around. It's kind of like that, but it's more tangible. So what happened is the Invids, whatever the simulation device, used their device to transport them somewhere else. So that Dana is gone again. She's been taken again. Now as an older girl, about a year and a half, 2 years older. And they were on their way to the planet. So yeah, and just to make it a little confusing, the younger one, Aurora, is wearing her clothes from the previous one. It's the previous action figure. But yeah, that's what's going on. So I'm going to establish in this scene what's kind of happening in that, because there's no transition, that we're going to have Hope and, is it Hope and one other? We're going to follow them into the other realm to go and rescue her. So they're going to be there in the other realm. Because the T.L. Aaron story had it that she was not rescued in the last story. And she went back to the slum and was in the slum. And that was just messed up. We wanted to have her get rescued in the last story. So this is sort of a simulation of the slum and all that stuff. But actually what it is, it's the subspace realm within the ship, but probably on the planet as well. And they can get to the planet from the realm because it's the Genesis pit type of thing in Vid. they can get there. They can cross it. Galvatron mentioned that. So that's what's kind of happening. They're kind of there and not there. But to Jameson and the others, they have disappeared, or at least one of the others they've disappeared, and so they're gonna try and get there to find them. So that's what I'm gonna do right now to establish that they can send somebody to find them. Yes, the Key and the Slayer. They were two double action figures back in the day at Diamond Select, and it's in the script. He mentions the Key, and I added the line Michelle Trachtenberg's character, but the rest of that's in there. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he said it. So just so you know, making of, yeah. Anyway. So a couple hours after John night, decided to do a little more filming. That's it for the evening. And this was the in Terry Screamer mini Screamer scene. The reason that the Testament stories, the reason that this is going on, and they're kind of like building up the same information as the other ones. There were like 8 or 9 episodes of it. We used about half of them in the stories. I think we used 3 in one and 3 in the other, or something like that. So there were like 9. Yeah. So yeah, and in the original script story, Dana is not rescued in the last story. In the original story of Testament 1, 2, and 3, and the others, she isn't rescued, and this continues. They're still trapped, and with the robot finding her and all that. But we decided that in terms of this Robotech story, with the other stories kind of bookending it, that we needed to have her rescued in part 2, and then have a second event happen, because otherwise it's too much. She doesn't get rescued in part 2. I mean, that's just too much. So what happens here is in this version, if we get into part 3 here, is that what's going on so far, we're going to tell today, is that the Autobots have figured out how to use the phase shift to go and look around the mothership for Dana. They figured out how to track her with their Zentradi, part of her Zentradi heritage, half Zentradi. They send Hope and Farrington, which means Ashleen is not in this next scene. The cat guy is. Or somebody else. Maybe it's the cat guy. Funny. So they're hallucinating the cat guy too. Well, also what's going on is the device has activated again near the ship. That's going to become evident shortly, and they're actually on the ship, but some of them are phase shifted. So what's going on is the gang has figured out how to mess with the ship, and you figure the SDF-3A. Is about a third larger than the SDF-3, which was 2 miles, roughly, 2.5 miles. It's maybe almost twice as large then. They're pretty big. The SDF-1 ships are pretty big, and the cities in them are pretty big. So this one is 5 miles long, and it's about 5 miles, and it's huge. So yeah, you could easily have a city-state inside it, thousands of people, and there would be all the action could take place in the ship, and you wouldn't need to go down to the planet. Part of the reason for not going directly to the planet also is that because in this science fiction universe of this story, they wouldn't be able to survive on the Invid homeworld. It's destroyed. The Invid homeworld on the planet itself, there's no breathable atmosphere anymore. It's wrecked. It's poisonous. So they can't go down to the planet. So clearly there's a clue when they go to the ship, when the robot finds Dana, and it's a little bit. And the robot's memory is a little bit jinkered by the transition. So is Farrington's. So when they arrive there and they find Dana, they're kind of clueless. They've been zapped by the energy field. They don't know to just stay with her and bring her out with the device. They've lost their memory of how they got there. And it appears that also the psychic power, the pseudo-psychic powers of the alien field without the drug is affecting the Alison Strawberg and her clones, and will be making them have powers again shortly. So they will know that, oh, okay, something's weird with the energy field. The Invid energy field is back, and it's got the ship. So they're on the ship. It's a bottle show, but it's a very interesting bottle show. They're on the ship, And there's miles of ship to go around. So miles is a lot. There's a lot to go around in there. So it's 5 miles, and it's probably a half a mile tall. So it's huge. It's gigantic. It's an enormous ship, and yeah. So the SDF-3A, and yeah. So mainly they're on the ship. They haven't landed on the planet. We do see some later on stuff on the planet. The Decepticons go down to the planet. So they do that, but mainly the humans are on the ship because even the bad guys know they can't go to the place where the atmosphere is poisonous. They wouldn't land on the planet; they would die. So even they know that. It isn't that the gangs are taking over again; it's more like the energy field is controlling them, and what's ever going on. It's going to be evident shortly. But yes, so Dana having a vision of her older self, for one thing, clues you in. Somebody has seen the other other 6 hours of the Robotech story so far would gather, okay, the thing is affecting Dana again. Something out there is affecting Dana again. And then when you see the robots trying to figure out about this planet, the destroyed planet from millions of years ago, that's in the story, it's connected to the origins of the energy field and all that. It's ancient, apparently. It's very ancient, old, millions of years old energy field. The Invid adopted it later in current times, but really it's ancient. It's older than the Transformers and everyone else, and it's old. And also there's a cool clue and nod. The reason that we didn't say that Ritter had the Matrix and the Queen is still looking for the Crimson Warrior that has the Matrix is because it isn't Ritter. He just thinks he has it. He has a version of it, but he doesn't have the one because then he would defeat them all. Someone else has it, and it's a clue in the alien planet, and it's a clue in the Autobots because they kind of mention the thing, and it all works out because there's a secret thing going on there. Yeah. So everything starts going wonky again on the ship because of there's a computer virus too that's affecting Edward's left behind. It's affecting the ship. Because the ship was built from the remains of the SDF-2 and 3, which were damaged in the Transformer battle in Shared Hallucinations. So that they've rebuilt it from that. So they didn't know that some of the software was corrupted. And how could they? But yeah. Talomsky and Jameson start to realize that when Jameson freaks a little bit and she starts to realize, oh, my powers are back. She's starting to realize that. She's like, oh, maybe our powers are back. So it's starting to happen. Or is it their minds playing tricks? Or is it both? And that's kind of cool. So we set up the story. And it does seem like, oh, yeah, they kind of just, it's kind of like, oh, we ended it prematurely in the last episode to bring Dana home and everything. Well, we did, but that was for story's sake. And she's not really in as much mortal peril this time. She's on the ship. But still a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit. I mean, there's bad guys. It does beg the question, how can... what's their plan? They've already mentally damaged her. She's not going to be the commander of the Southern Cross in this timeline, as her older self points out. The French girl is. And that's a nod to Space Cavalry Southern Cross, in which Libya, Leon is Dana. Sergi Leon, I think is his name. And she's the Dana in the Japanese version. So yes, or Leon Shinji. I might be saying that backwards. But yes, it's very Japanese. It doesn't sound French. But yeah, that's the gag. And it's sure, why not? Put it back on the ship. We're on page 58. We ended up tonight. That's 58. Trucking along through part 2 of the 3 parts. We'll see how much we could get done over this weekend as we go along. And maybe we can wrap audio footage of this film and put together part 3 next Tuesday. That would be exciting. Be amazing. We have to take a little bit of hiatus after that before we can do full-on Chimera right after that. But we will get this done. we'll put this in the can and have this be done. We did start production on it immediately during rendering 2. And so we were able to take off with it. So there you are. So, yeah. But yes, yeah. The doppelganger. And also the Interi Screamer is sort of a Requiem blaster, but more powerful. It's sort of a nuke, nuke thing. If they actually used an Interi Screamer inside the ship, it would blow a hole in the side of the SDF-3 and suck them all into space. So clearly they couldn't have used an actual full-on Interi Screamer in there, or a Requiem blaster. It would have blown a hole in the ship. Unless it was in the landing bay, in which case they could have fired it out of the landing bay and that would have been okay. But yeah, they would have destroyed part of the ship, a good deal of the ship, if they had that. So I had the bad guy, well, he's an alien. The bad guy have a rocket launcher, G.I. Joe rocket launcher thing, which is a mini screamer, which wouldn't be a nuke, but it could blow a hole in the hull. It could be a problem if it was near the edge of the hull. So yeah, that would be they'd get sucked out into space, or the air would get sucked out and they would suffocate. Probably before they got pulled through the hole, they would just go, and they would die. So that wouldn't be good. So yeah, he activates the missile launcher, and then finally old Flint whips out this giant golden enormous gun because he's overcompensating. I mean, he married he married Fairborn, Flint Fairborn. He married Lady J, and that's their daughter. And she couldn't have been a captain in 2005. She only would have been 19. So she's not a captain. But here she's a captain. So that makes sense. It's 20 years after that. It was 15 years after that. Then she could be a captain. Well, if she was a military captain, maybe she could be a captain in 5 or 6 years. But it's usually over 10. So it'd be like 2015 when she's a captain. Usually, that's a high rank in the military. It's not as high in the army. In the army, it's a lower rank. Yeah, in the army, it's lieutenant, captain, lieutenant, and lieutenant senior grade. In the army, captain is not as high as lieutenant, and first lieutenant, and then colonel and all that stuff, and then general. And yeah. But yeah, by the time you're a full bird colonel, you're probably like 25, 30 years. So that's kind of a long way. Yeah. So, yeah. But implying that Vice Admiral Hunter is pretty young to be a Vice Admiral too. So maybe that was the Transformer War did that. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, the data stuff lines up too, sort of. It kind of does if it's 2031 at this point. Late 2030, early 2031. Because the 2 other planets, they were able to go faster. So it wasn't another 5-year journey each time. That would have been, yeah. Yeah. So technically it's been a year since the other story to them, but it's 2 years liminally out in space. Which is not 5, it's 2. But, that, you know. So yeah. So it's a little less. It did get there faster. You wonder what all the Transformers are doing back on Earth, but we probably won't show that here. There may be an alternate ending scene added on just for fun. We'll see. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be 3 hours and we can't do any more. We'll see. But for now, I'm ending this for tonight. And we'll start up tomorrow. I have a full day of filming. From around 37 to 57. 20 pages or so. Yeah, so there we go. Happy Star Trek Day. Yeah, Star Trek Day, 1966. Star Trek started in 1966, in September 8th, with the Cage, the menagerie, the Cage, yeah. Yeah, and where no man has gone before. So now we're going to go on to film some, Star Trek Day, some Robotech meets the Transformers. Lower Deck started yesterday, and as well, yeah, and I had a cameo as a guy who gets shot by a phaser. So yeah, but yes, anyway, I'm assuming he got stunned, so he's probably not dead. Anyway, so we're gonna go on to the Robotech thing, do that. But yes, yeah, we're gonna do the Robotech thing. Yeah, nothing else extra. We're gonna do some fun stuff. Oh, so note when you edit this, and get around to editing it, making of, that this is the scene where Allison basically dies. Spoilers. And Aslan the cat dies because he's really a figment. Billy's sort of a manifestation of the shadow, and she is too. So they're both together now for the first time. They're like the hero trans character, whereas the bad guy is the antithesis of that. He's a evil one, but he's like a problematic one that made himself that way because he wanted to, whereas an actual real trans person is born that way. So she's also she's been cloned like the clones of the planet, and she's made contact with the Shadow Cat, which is a reference to the a character who used to sing lovely songs on the internet of Hobbit songs on the internet. The Misty Mountains Cold song. It was like the full ballad, but then she became a Trump cultist and stopped posting on the internet. So that sucks, but yeah, she's no longer around on the internet. But yeah, this the show Allison and the cat or Shadow Cat, which is funny. Yeah, she went the other ways. No, these characters do not reflect that character. It's just that the lion is a shadow cat, a shadow cat. It's not directly that person. Okay, and that person is not trans. It's just straight. But yeah. So yeah, they revealed that the bad guy is trans, but he's sort of the problematic one. He's like an Ezra Miller type character, doing a voice like Mark Hamill as the Joker, basically. So we have the bad guy, and we have the standoff, and yeah. So the correction is that there's a scene where Jameson shows up out of nowhere. She's following them, and Jameson is very similar to Allison. I think the two characters were just that character, but when Aarons wrote this, he didn't realize he killed her off just now. But the bad guy kills her, and he didn't realize she's going to be still around later. He forgot. But when we rewrote this to get to this point, we said like, oh, okay, we separated those two, Jameson's personality from Allison's, or from her doubles and her clones and her clone friends and whatever. So that and the trans-tector Jameson, who is related to Remy more than the others are. Yeah, so she's a trans-tector, and she's an X-Men sort of, but is an X-Men character. But yeah, it's yeah. So what's going on is the good guys versus the bad guys, and some of them are straight, some of them are trans, some of them are bi. It's fine. So everybody's it's a free for all, where everybody's something. So that's good. So it isn't that one group or another is marginalized. It's that all groups are present and accounted for. And yeah, they don't say that it's Shadow Cat in the story, but the lion is a Shadow Cat. So just it's a Shadow Cat, not the Shadow Cat. And yes, after production, before production, we knew that there was a Shadow Cat. But yes, so the lion guy. And yes, if you've seen Chronicles of Narnia as well, you know that Aslan sacrifices himself like Christ so they can come back as more powerful than ever or whatever. I don't know if that happens here just because it's sort of a conjured by, at this point, Allison, I guess. She conjured him. It means her powers came back and she's going to go kick some ass. The medic's saying how the bad guy and Miria get the Antares Screamer and it doesn't destroy the ship, because it totally would destroy the ship. They fired a nuke in the city, it would blow a hole or destroy part of the ship, which would be consistent with the Tommy Yoon books. But I don't think they end up destroying the ship. I think they just end up damaging it, because otherwise the show would be over. And it would only be page 60. It would only be a little over an hour into it, so that'd be kind of funky. But the fans are going to be like, oh, no, I like that character. Oh, man. But like... But yeah, it's the finale, so we gotta whack somebody here, to make the finale. But her destiny is not to live. Her destiny is to die and go into the be one with the Matrix. But her twins are still out there. So it's about generations and going on. So anyway, yeah, I decided to throw that in there just because you kind of need some closure there a little bit. So they took, yeah, yeah, because otherwise there's no closure. It's like, this is a main character that got killed. Yeah, so so yeah, I threw that in there. So the three are in there, implying implicitly that they're implying that they're a triumvirate at this point. So yeah, there's the three. There's the three. Might mean something. Might not. Might mean something. Anyway, so I'm going to the next scene. So there's a revision to the page 71 and 72 scene. In that briefly, the courtroom scene doesn't have any Transformers in it. It did in the original story, but I don't think it should have any Transformers in it. It is part of the simulation. And then that's the end of this episode, and then we jump a couple of weeks to after they establish they put the Autobot base down on the planet, basically, in the sealed dome, so they can observe things. You put Dana there, but this is sort of a recreation of a trial scene that probably happened at some point at the end of the episode, and she's just remembering it differently. The simulation is. They're still not sure what's going on, so I like it the way it's structured here better. It's going to work better to just have the human characters in it and no Transformers in it. Because, yeah, that doesn't make sense. It would throw off the later stuff. I mean, I could have Optimo there, but it'd be odd. So I'm not going to, because the simulation, he would be too big for it to fit in there, technically. Yeah. So, yes, oh my, as Mr. Sulu would say, oh my. Apparently the program was a little too good. After the trial scene they programmed in there, apparently they programmed in a little too much of the AI, and it got a little overexcited. Just a little bit. Yeah, and that's in the script, incidentally. It does show. In the script, it's weirder, though. It goes kiss players, because it's supposed to be a robot, it's supposed to be Optimo. And she kisses Optimo goodnight and stuff. And I thought, that's a little too much. No, it's Remy. And then that adds an entire layer to it and makes it say, like, oh, what? You never see Dana dating a boy, ever, even in the Southern Cross. So, yeah, maybe she's totally gay, which is fine. But apparently the simulation of Remy is not into her as much as she thinks she's into her. And you figure, she's almost 18, like the doctor said. The commander said. Oh, God. But yes, yeah. And the simulation of Remy is like, oh, not right now. That's fine. It's funny. It's a funny scene. Yeah, so that was the end of that episode. We're going to go next to Summer Storm, which is the next episode in the timeline, and it's page 75. They put a colony down on the planet under protective domes. I'm assuming the Autobot ship went down there and it set up a base on the planet just to have them finally down on the planet, like 70 pages or an hour and a half into the movie. They're finally going to land on the planet. We're finally going to see some of that, but they're in a pressurized area, so they're not going to die. So we finally get there, but yeah, it's been a long road getting there. So yeah, so it's a simulation. So Dana did not actually kiss a real Remy. Dana did a simulation of her. Yeah, she's almost 18. So. So this is the next scene. This is page 78. We're blazing through this. We're going to do the scene on the planet, reminiscent of the scene from, I think, Shadow of Children, Return of the Shadow. Well, they go down to Optera, in the Optera sequence. This is similar to that. Similar dialogue. Old Flint is not there. That's a change, because why would he be there in the Veritech on the planet? So we got Jack and Karen and Rick and everybody. So, let's go. Okay, so that's it for tonight. That's a full day of filming. That's definitely it for tonight. We got a lot done. We're almost all the way through part 2, which is insane. Yeah, so tomorrow is Saturday, and we're almost through part 2, and it's Star Trek Day today. But this was a Robotech filming, and we got a lot of stuff done. A lot of characters came back and stuff. Actually, in the script, the Lion does return. It says the Lion and Maximus go and find the missing people. They go find the missing Decepticon in the next scene, and they go find Ritter. So that's what they do. So Maximus goes on a mission on his own, and we get to see that part. There's ensemble stuff earlier on, and then there's other stuff. There's also the Invid stuff and the Kaiju. The Kaiju is a Trypticon. So that's cool. We have Titan. Titan's return Trypticon. And he's not really interested in attacking them. He's just sort of there, which is funny. And I got a lot of footage of him against the screen, but yeah, he's so much bigger than them. They want to put him on the table because it'll probably knock the table over. So yeah, yeah. He's in the background. They kind of don't fight him. They kind of just like see him over there. He doesn't do much. But yeah, Primus returns. Other things happen. Max is in the room there, so apparently they're okay with Max being in a bear attack. Miria is in the brig, but for shooting the bad guy. But they probably kind of liked that the bad guy got shot. And the robot is trying to do his voice, kind of, but it's a robot, so the Trypticon doesn't really sound like the bad guy. It's just programmed to do that. He's gone. No, he's pretty much gone. So yeah, unless Ritter's got his spirit or something. Yeah, we don't know who the other Crimson Warrior is with the Matrix yet. It's not Ritter though, I don't think. It's probably someone else. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. The line is there. It's part of the script, and we're going to go on. That's it for the evening. I'm not going to ramble on about the other stuff. No. So in terms of the story and where it's going, we're nearing the end of the second act. Or the second, yeah, there's like 3 50-page stories. And Remy disappears from the story, and then we start off with the second act, and about 13 pages into the next act, the third act, all of the kids leave the story. Dana, Bowie, and them, and a group of GI Joes go back to Earth with some of the Sentinels. They go back to Earth, so they're going to go back to Earth, and so that's kind of the end of that episode. But it leads into Sheba's episode, the Prisoner of Destiny, the final battle of Optera, and because we don't want to do what we did yesterday and just say, oh, well, let's just kill off what's-her-face. We like this other one, Strawberry. It's not Remy's destiny to be killed off. So she's around, but she's going to be less around. So this scene is not in the script, but it's just a minor scene before the action to establish the courtroom scene was in fact a simulation, but Dana didn't think it is. So just a little snippet before we walk in on Dana and the other crew who have come back to the Autobot ship. On page 97. So yeah, let's just do that. So we're doing this. I'm doing this scene right here with Magnus and Ritter. That's sort of a parallel of the Shockwave one, but here he's facing the main bad guy. And I added a scene where some Veritechs are outside, noting the alien. It was added. It was clearly added. Where the Robotechs, Lang and Max, show up to this highly dangerous place, and they're standing out there commenting on him being schizophrenic and crazy. But it throws off the scene to do that. To have, like, for no reason, there's backup with the Robotechs outside. And I know the creature carries on a little longer, goes down the cave, and does some other things. But it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense for this is the Ritter scene. This is the scene where he fights Ritter. And Ritter earlier on, the other Ritter at least, was not one to mince words. Or if he was going to go on for a long speech, it was a distraction. This one's no different. He's planning to his escape. If the Veritechs are there, they'll get possessed. That'd be stupid. That would be dumb. No, he has to face off with the bad guy, complete the scene with the bad guy, and then the Veritechs show up after he's dead. Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense that they would. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why would they be there? That makes no sense. I want to correct it now, so we put the story together. is like, oh, but that scene doesn't make any sense. Why is that in there? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I wasn't reading the context when I added them there. I wanted to have the backup show up, but to make it more like the Battle for Optera, but they wouldn't be there at that point because, yeah. Also, it's more punchy when they reveal the main characters' motivations and stuff. That his wife is Dameron in the story. It shouldn't be Dameron in the story. It should be Primary, obviously. Um, tying it into the other story. So this is the Magnus from the other story. Yeah, so it is. Yeah. Anyway, so that would make more sense. Yeah. In this timeline, apparently, Primary was either killed or absorbed or something, and yeah, he's going to taunt him. You should keep taunting him. So yeah, the Robotech scene should not be next. Yeah. Put that later. Yeah, you don't need that at this point. Yeah, later on. So yeah, they wouldn't show up anyway. Why would Rick Hunter allow Max Sterling to go where the bad guy is? Why would he do that? Because Max Sterling's already messed up from the warp and everything. That'd be a bad idea. He'd probably go in there and guns blazing and shoot the bad guy himself and then end up getting killed. So Rick Hunter wouldn't do that. So yeah, no reason. Go back to me for a second here. The scene was originally a reference to the synchro cannons and the Haydenite technology. That would create a double problem. I know it's it's a reference. It's a member berry, but it doesn't work there either because he's a Haydenite. He would know how to stop it. So there's two reasons why that scene wouldn't make any sense. He's got an Optera screamer with him, which would not only blow up the cave, but everything around it if he actually fired it at full power. So they wouldn't want to be there for that reason either. So it's just a little scene, and it's in there to say the bad guy's nuts, and we have a cannon that can fight him. It's better if Magnus kind of says that. It's better if Magnus is messing with him, proving that he's an awesome soldier and that stuff. And there's nothing in the Transformer records to say Magnus was ever a Decepticon. He was just kind of gruff. In Transformers Prime, he's kind of gruff. In that series, he was kind of an a-hole in Transformers Animated, but in the original, he was just sort of gruff and soldiery. And he had the Matrix briefly. I think what's going on here is that these Autobot characters and these Invid characters, the Autobot and Decepticons in this story, are the ones that were rescued from the end of Lexicons. And since they're copies of the other ones, like Magnus and Prime and everybody, except for Scout, they assumed the names of the Robotech people and the Invid people and the Masters. And what happened is when they did that, they changed some of their names. And this is actually Ultra Magnus, who was the husband of Primary. They were married a long time ago, and then they got back together. And then Galvatron tried to kill her, and then she had to come back from the dead and everything. They had to rebuild her basically. That happened in Lexicon. So I think what's going on, and it ties into this story. Just change your name from Dameron to Primary, and the audience will go, "Oh, there's a connection with Lexicons. He's Lexicon Ultra Magnus. That's who he is." And not only that, she's even more screwed up. Remember, the Regis mentions the Crimson Warrior and believes Ritter to be Crimson Warrior for a while. She was never referring to him. There's another Crimson Warrior. And Ultra Magnus has some Crimson on him, but he's not the Crimson Warrior. I mean, he could be, and maybe it was Primary before who he tried to absorb. Maybe Magnus actually has the creation power inside him, and he can mess with him. So maybe he does, and he's not using his phase shift, and it's not because he doesn't want to. It's because the bad guy is so arrogant that he figures he can beat this guy because there's just one of them. That makes it even more appropriate for them to be one guy fighting this other guy in the scene, because then it's like, oh, he went there on his own, and he thinks he can handle it, and he can, because he's the good guy. The bad guy is going to ramble on thinking he's going to get away with it, and he isn't going to. So I am going to throw in some of the lines the Rick Hunter people say from Magnus instead, because it shouldn't be Rick Hunter. And Max and Lang, I guess it is. Why did I? That wouldn't have worked. It would have thrown it completely off. So no, no, we're not doing that. Yeah, it should all be them. This is kind of where that ends, and then the Robotech people take the kids away, back to the planet ship or whatever. Yeah, the spaceship or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, there's a little too much thought put into it, but I think yeah, you kind of in this case we don't need a snippet where they joke about how they have a synchro cannon and they're going to use it on him because that's and about him being schizo because that just doesn't make sense. They know that it would be like if they said Hannibal Lecter was a cannibal over and over again. Yeah, so you have show and not tell. Also, you want a villain that makes sense in the story, and if this is his comeuppance, then having it foreshadowed with a innocent scene with them cracking jokes throws it off. If they crack jokes, he wants to crack jokes, but they're evil jokes. Well, that's fine. Only for Maximus to not really get it and go like, "Okay, you're just weird." Yeah. Okay, so let's do the scene. I believe it is dinner time. It is dinner time. So yes, I'm going to charge the thing. And yeah, we did a lot, actually. We started on, I think it was page 97, and we're at page 112. Yeah, 97, 112. About, yeah, 15 pages? So it's not quite 20. But yeah, we got all the way to the end of what amounts to that episode. And this kind of leads into the next one, which is the Sheba one. Let's get the Sheba. The next one will be, let's see what it is here. The Prisoner of Destiny, right? Yeah. Okay, so the next one is, Prisoner of Destiny by Sheba. Prisoner of Destiny. So Sheba's in this. It's a new one, a new person. She wrote to the last roughly 55 pages of the story. And we'll see how she does to make it look like a T.L. Ahrens. But yeah, there were some characters that were leaving in the story. And I thought just to make it more obvious they weren't killed or something. Remy goes with them too. And there's some Transformers apparently. I'm not sure which ones go with them. But at the end they show Optimo at the very end, so he couldn't have been there unless he left later. Maybe he did. That's a little odd. It probably should be someone else in that scene. It should probably be Remy in that scene going, "Hi, I'm Remy. I'm still here." But that's probably that should be to make that make sense. But yeah, like the Beyond scene in the other one that in post we put Beyond on the ship. That's the same thing. Well, Beyond is actually in this one. She's actually left behind with the other Sentinels. So she'll show up again later. The character, but some of the other ones are lined up here. We have the teacher lady, the counselor lady, and McLeod is also going back. So, and Farrington wants to go back with him, so she's gonna go with him. Yeah. So, So yeah, they're all lined up. They're all ready to go. So there they go. Okay, this is Calicat. The Calicats are Cowpoke or Calicat, and on the making of here. And this is it for the evening. And we got up. We did 20 pages. We went from 98 to 118. And we'll easily finish this tomorrow, most likely, maybe Monday. It's not on a time schedule. It'd be nice, But yeah, a lot of progress here. There were a lot of scenes. This is the beginning of the next episode, and we're into the next episode. And it appears that Sheba, like Rakshi and the others, are fond of doing weird, sort of trippy magic things. Now, in the first episode of the first three-part first miniseries, there was a lot of conjuring on it, like magic and mind games and stuff. So here again, they're doing kind of the same thing, but here it's a manifestation more of science than affecting their minds and faking them out, and that's affecting their minds. So we have the battle for Optera which is similar to the book Rubicon, Robotech the Sentinels Rubicon. There was a lot of mind games in that one. So this is similar to that. The Calicat stuff, you can tell it's Calicat stuff. But oddly enough, the strange conjuring stuff is not Calicat, but Shiba's own brand of. I'm gonna do a lot of references of stuff like Kingdom Hearts and Sailor Moon and Xena and other things thrown in there, and Thundercats, and whatever else is in there, because yeah, so and although it is kind of weird that they go down to the planet, there's only dozens of them on either side, and they're going to liberate a planet. They've addressed that before. The other thing that's weird is, the regent is suddenly like displaced and doesn't realize what she's doing, or part of her is displaced, and her side of her that's a spiritual magical being is taken over, and is running wild with her doing cosmic thoughts and stuff. So that's what's going on. Makes a certain amount of sense in this story, and you want to, and you can see that, like, okay, well, it's over on 168, and now it's 118 a page, 50 pages from now. So in order for them to solve everything within an hour, I'm assuming over each one of these stories takes place over a few weeks each. I think each one of these hours, it's a couple of weeks, and then another couple of weeks, and then another couple of weeks. So, and they're on the Invid planet, and they really can't physically like go out and actually blast away at the bad guys, unless they're Maximus. I guess he can do that, and they can't really do that just because it doesn't make sense that they would do that. It isn't that there's a conscious effort to say, they don't have guns in the story. They do have some of them. It's just that we didn't have any reason to have them really have. I mean, have the I could put like Veritech guns in the Veritechs, but I figured like they never really do anything with them. So the gag is that every time they shoot their guns, they do, and you don't see them shooting their guns, is that presumably they whip them out of subspace and are firing them. Yeah. Also, the Requiem Blaster being a version of the Anteri Screamer was amusing. So the Requiem Blaster is featured in there. It is an Anteri Screamer. Apparently, that's so it's called the Requiem Blaster by the Autobots, but it is like an Anteri Screamer. It's similar. Maybe that's the brand name. It's called an Anteri Screamer. Yeah. The Grim Reaper gun, basically. So yeah, and that's present from G1. So that's from G1, the comics, and also Calcat in the Trans saga. Skyfire back in the day used one Requiem Blaster to defeat Thundercracker, inadvertently killing one of the Autobots in the process because he was not thinking. Oh, but then they put it back together. Yeah. It was one of my oldest nephew David's contributions to Trans Tech, the original Trans series back when he liked Transformers. Kind of gave up on them when he was a later teenager, but earlier on he liked them, and he wrote that, and the one where Mirage doesn't have a twin brother because Mirage's twin brother was killed in a friendly firefight, which was included in Transformers Meets Robotech 2. Not here so much. Anyway, so yeah, and you wanted in the first 2 hours to have Dana and Bowie and them leave and not be in the third hour because it complicates things when they're there. And Remy was going to leave anyway because she's not in the rest of the story. That's because she wasn't in Sheba's story. That's all. But let's make it fit. So I had her go with them. So presumably Beyond is standing in for Remy as the Transtector. Presumably Beyond. And maybe Lang is too, which would be interesting. Because they could be. Transtectors are just humanoids that can have exoskeletons and transform into robots. Yeah, that's what they are. Transtectors. A planet master. It's connected to the masters, which is funny. So yeah, that's kind of it for the evening. And yeah, I can ramble on about how that works. Also, is getting crowded on the set where everybody is. So yeah, this scene requires like 5 or 6 people and 2 teams running around, and so it looks weird. And yeah, so then they go back to their bases right afterwards. So I couldn't like show them directly in it. So I put out 2 vehicles with the guys, and although Talomsky and Jameson are in the script, they were put in the script to say quirky things from their vehicle. But I gave them some of Optimal's lines because in this version, because it made more sense that they were carrying on a conversation in their vehicle and not cutting back to the Transformers. So they take the quip about the other guys are coming at them, and they take the quip about the magic, and they're like, "What's this about? What's the magic? What are they doing?" Yeah. Um, and the gag kind of is that, like Dana in the other universe, in the doppelganger timeline, the queen is conjuring stuff, but it isn't really doing much of anything. It's scaring off the other Transformers, but it's not scaring off the humans because they don't see it. So it's on another plane that they're not seeing it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. That's kind of what's happening. Yeah. It's kind of what's happening. I should probably address that just a little bit. Because it's not in the script. It should probably be in there. Hold on. I'll do that. And I'll, next time. Yeah. Tomorrow. I'll address it right now and then I'll stop. I won't do another commentary about that. I'll just do that right now. Okay, this is Calicat breaking into the fourth wall here. We're on page 134, 135 in the story. And this scene where they're kind of mocking and making fun of Final Fantasy games. It's a little weird. I don't mind including it because it's kind of what she did in the story, and now it's even fixing even more. I don't mind what she did, but I don't think that it involved. There's this weird sequence where allegedly she's in a coma again. Someone's in a coma again because of the blast from the death spell or whatever it is. It's not a real death spell. I threw in the Avada Kedavra, the Harry Potter one, even though it's the wrong one. I know it's the wrong one. No, just to throw that in there because it's really fictional. It's not a real spell. Yeah, it's fake. Everyone knows abracadabra is way more powerful. Anyway, so and hocus pocus. Anyway, just kidding. Yeah, on a Sunday, let's talk about witches. Yeah, that makes sense. But anyways, but in this story we have well the witch queen, the invid lady. The 2 characters she's talking to. If she's in a coma, why is she talking to Lang and Optimo and Exodor? It comes out of nowhere. It makes no sense. Lang and Optimo and Exodor, why would they be there? And then later on, there's a little bit of added stuff to try and fix. Because there's a Calicat scene immediately after that, where it tries to fix what they were doing because it really didn't make sense to film it that way. And that's what you get when you have a script. You're trying to make a script to screen, and you realize this does not translate well. It does not work well. It would be a plot hole. It's like how is she conversing with the Transformers, the Autobots, and the Robotechs while she's in a coma? And the easiest way out of that, the quickest way out of that, quick and dirty, is there's probably another day of filming left. Is that just one more day? Is that okay? Instead of that, since Lion the cat guy, the Aslan is there, and since she's replaced Remy as Tallspike's trends detector. It was mentioned in the dialogue. So she also has a connection with Primus. So I thought, well, instead of the other Maximals and stuff, well, they are kind of Maximals. Leo Prime, Primus, and the Lion should be the ones talking to her, not Tallspike and Optimo and Exodor and Lang. So this next scene, she is talking to the space elder god of the Transformers. And she's also talking to the lion shadow god in the guise of Aslan the lion. And she's talking to them in the ethereal plane. And she's not dead. She's just because she has to show up later at the end. Yeah. She's not dead. And apparently in Final Fantasy, not too familiar with the games, but I played some, the video game version years ago, but wasn't very good at it. The really really old school one, and they have a phoenix spell that revives her, and the Autobots could use that on her. But if she's like a human in sort of an exo frame thing that's around her, why would it even do anything to her? She's a human. She's not a robot, really. It's probably more likely the Invid Lady's blast. In reality, what happened is the Invid Lady's blast knocked out the controls on the ship and knocked her out. So it's not actually, this nothing to do with the spell. It's just that she got knocked out. Yeah, it's like something shorted out or exploded or something. She's not dead. Anyway, so we'll try to figure out what to do there. Yeah, the floating head. Yes, so we're done for the evening. It's about 8:30. We've been doing this since 1, so yeah, we'll stop for the evening. It's Sunday. We should wrap it up tomorrow, really. There's basically 20 pages left. It's conceivable to do it tomorrow. Maybe Tuesday. But it might be tomorrow. It was just not possible usually we do about 20 pages a day. This was, we're at 137. Yeah, we did 20 pages. About 117 to 137, 20 pages. So yeah, so next one would be probably the end of tomorrow night would be then 167 or 160. So it would be the end of it. Yeah. So it'd be the end of the thing. So 137 to 157. Not quite the end of it. But a lot of the dialogue that's coming up is brief action-y kind of stuff, like, oh, he's over there, and he fights there, so it actually will go quickly, because this went pretty quickly, too, and there was only one major scene change to make it visually more interesting, and also that one scene there with the spell is slightly different from the story, in that Lang and the others never mentioned developing a trank gun thing. In the story, they just do, and they're there on the battlefield somehow. They came out of nowhere. Don't do that in the story. I was complaining about that when some of the other stories that have done that. Oh, here's the hero with the last-minute thing to fix things. So I did it differently. I had to say, like, okay, Beyond got knocked out, and by the death spell thing. It didn't kill her because she doesn't believe in the spell. She didn't believe in the voodoo. So that's kind of what saved her. So she's like knocked out, and the alien came to her. The aliens, alien lion, the protector lion, and also Primus came. The Primus alien, shadow aliens came to her, and they basically, the shadow demigods or whatever. They basically tell her, this is what you have to do. You've been zapped by a spell, but it didn't kill you because you really don't believe in it, which is kind of fun. So that makes it more of a visually interesting scene. I understand there's another scene a little later where they revive her, but you don't need that scene now. And so basically what happens is it's the same scene, it just gave it to these two other characters instead of the other one sort of reviving her in the middle of the battle and asking her about the trank gun, and then the other two humans show up out of nowhere and they give her the trank gun, and then she goes and gives it to Tall Spike, and instead of that, how about they just say, here's what you must do. Here, you must tranquilize her like an animal. Tranquilize her human form. You have a human form in your battle pod. She has a human form in her battle pod, in her exosuit. Basically her exosuit body. So basically, all they have to do is tranquilize her. So she comes around, and she contacts the Zors and tells the Zor commanders, Tall Spike and the other Zors, yeah, here's what you do. I was just told here's what to do, and I'm going to tell all you guys how to do it. You get a tranquilizer device, and they're all, we don't have one, because they do comment about that. And then in the original story, two other Robotech people show up, or two other characters, well, they're Autobots in the original, show up and give them a tranquilizer gun, which they would then see on the battlefield. It doesn't make sense. They would stop it. The Decepticons would be like, wait a minute, why do you have that? But the aliens point out, one of them points out, the story, no, this planet it has an energy fields everywhere, that manifest thoughts into reality. It's been happening through all three stories, all three parts of the series, so why not use it against them? Like, okay, she's conjuring stuff and making spells up and blasting people in the ground. You can do that too. So, Tall Spike, conjure a gun that'll tranquilize her. And he does. He conjures a tranq gun. Oh, no, I could do that. Pew, 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 and they start shooting each other. She's like, ah, pff. And it actually, yeah, it pew-pews her. Sure, that works. That's show and tell. Yeah, it's like he just does it, and the Decepticons are like, what? How? They're baffled. They're like, how come the Autobots have that? Like, oh, yeah, if she hadn't zapped Beyond, they would have lost the battle. So, and she realizes that as she's about to get trained. Oh crap! I should have destroyed her completely, because she's going to totally destroy me now. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I was like, well, not getting destroyed, but the bad guy getting beaten. She tranked her. She's not dead. Tranked her human forms. The robot fell over. That's in the script. I just did it a little more visually interesting. It's in the script. Also of note is that I discussed the Star Wars and Star Trek guy. There are two of them at the church. There was another one and another one about the lower decks appearance and all that. One of them seen it. It's like, yeah, that guy kind of did look. Yeah, your red shirt character. Yeah. Yeah, that was me. Lower decks. Yeah, the pilot. I'm the bald guy that gets shot. Yeah, because Raxler suggested that way back in October. He's all, yes, have my character appear on your show and get phasered as a red shirt at Halloween, and they did it. So, but yes, also he's in the Screen Actors Guild, so he can't. Okay, so they're technically on strike, but not for video games. So the gamer guy, he's on these. He's like, knock him out. It's Scott. It's Scott. And he from the original cast from. Yeah, I think he's seen the Chimera movie. He just hasn't seen the other ones. And now he's going to go watch the Tribble one because he heard about the David Gerald stuff. So, yeah, just Blood and Fire. No, you couldn't do that. No, the Tribbles, you could do that. But yes. So, yeah, he wasn't sure what Blood and Fire was, but I think he'll look it up later. It's just a harder to do script. I basically said it was a harder to do script than that one. I'm not in the SAG or the Screen Actors Guild or the WGA or AFTA, but as a independent creator of story solidarity things, sure. But yeah, the writer strike's still going on, and I think they should get their due payment for online stuff. Why not? Why not pay them for just like reruns? Sure. But I'm just continuing to do my stuff because this is what I do. It's the bread and butter thing. So I got to do this. It's not on a time schedule. It totally established that this not a time schedule. It's not supposed to be done immediately this time, but it would be nice if we finish full photography on Monday, and that would be nice. But if it's Tuesday, that's fine. It will be wrapped, and then we can put the movie together. Yeah, because that would be cool to have the next Robotech done. It takes about 7 or 8 days, really, to do one of these. Even if it's a smaller one, like the Chimera ones, where it's only 90 minutes. This is epic, because we're cramming that 7 days, 3-hour shoot into 7 days. What would normally be a 1-hour shoot of something. Wow, it's like, that's insane. But yeah, that's it for tonight. And so that's, yeah, just, there wasn't much rambling. So, and it is related to this, so, yeah. So the goofy spells and stuff. With the spells, the voodoo, or whatever. Yeah, I'm not buying the idea of witchcraft, of course, not at all. But in the story, if they can conjure lions out of children's books and spells out of Final Fantasy and invids being reincarnated over and over again, then sure, why not? And if they can blow some of them away and make them not come back again, that also they can do. So we know that Maximus is actually sort of a version of Magnus, and that he's got the other thing. And and we already addressed the wife. In this timeline, it's a multiverse. It's more related to the lexicons, apparently. And he's the lexicon Magnus that knew about the primary and all that, his ex. But in the other timeline, he had a son in addition to the other two daughter robots. And, yeah. And Artfire was supposed to be in the script, at least in the story. She was supposed to be in it. She was written into it. She was going to be in the story, but she was basically Tallspike throughout the whole thing. And yeah, the other kid was going to show up, but then I thought, no, it's Tallspike. It's the other guy. His dialogue is meant for the other guy. It's not Artfire. You just threw that name in there because we're throwing in different names to be the different characters, and screwed up basically, and included a couple appearances of somebody that didn't need to be there. Also, yeah, Lang being in the spell scene makes no sense. And Jameson being there kind of does. She's an Esper character, but where did she come from? She can't just come out of nowhere. She's not, ooh, I'm Cad Bane coming in here and whatever. The sky. So real quick, I'm going to start off with September 11th, starting filming on the story. Page 137. Slight revisions. Max, Sterling, and Lang and Exeter are not in the scene. Why are they in the scene? I think I put them in there because they were in the other scene. They shouldn't have been in that scene either. So this scene, Hope shouldn't even be there. It should be just the Autobots that were in the battle. The battle immediately was just before. This author is, the person that wrote this is fond of switching back and forth between the two factions. That's okay, but not even giving them time to breathe So switching between the two factions. But yeah, having the other ones show up, the other Robotechs shouldn't even be there. So that's revised. We're going to shoot the scene, and then on the next page, immediately jump to another scene. Literally, in television, this would be a minute. A page is a minute in television. So 1 minute here, 1 minute there. It's kinetic and frantic. It's trying to make more out of less, basically, by switching around frantically. So let's do it. We'll note in the script that we overthought some scene and then finally decided it's just a lion. He just comes back and he's in the scene as Grunt, because we don't want to add a new character at the 145 page mark or like 10, 15 minutes from the end of the movie. So just, it's the cat guy. It's fine. We don't want to start adding new characters. That is exactly what they do in those Star Wars things. Don't do that. Ew, that's a cop-out. It's like, okay, your villain or your hero is just not cool. So we're going to throw in another villain at the last minute that's cooler because your villain sucks. Don't do that. So in this scene where the giant robot shows up and Jack and Karen are talking to them about the giant robot, I want this to be the people piloting the giant robot saying this. Yeah, because it makes more sense. So all of these guys right here, this scene here is going to be different people because we haven't seen them in a while. And we want to show them. So yeah. Note that these scenes here are being read not by Optimo and Andromeda because they sound like they've just met the Regis for the first time. They're being read by this crew inside the kaiju, like Power Rangers, basically. That's what's going on. So, yeah. I have not even had dinner tonight. It's probably 9, so I'm gonna have something for dinner. But we just completed wrapped principal photography on Destinies, the 3rd chapter of Robotech Meets the Transformers. Cowpoke and Kelly in the studio. We just did it. We just wrapped production on the video footage. We knocked out 25 pages in a day, and we did it. Holy cows. I don't think we're going to do that much with Chimera, but we'll see. It's about the same length, really, as the Chimera thing, but the Chimera thing is shorter because it's over like 7 day. Usually the increments are shorter. The stories are shorter. They're like an hour each. You put them together. So that whereas opposed to this being a 3-hour thing each time, we have succeeded in 3 miniseries, 3 Calcat miniseries, the sequel to Lexicons, and and referenced it and everything. And thought that at the last moment, well, actually, we thought about this story idea earlier because the battle is kind of weird and disjointed. And it's like an ethereal thing. Well, basically, they fire the main cannon, so they pretty much blow up the Decepticons. They killed them, basically. And that's how they got away with the spell thing, because the Cybertronium ignited, and it blew them up. And the other humans were in the kaiju, so they're fine. And the Veritechs were presumably in the kaiju as well. They came out afterward. So the kaiju landed. Also, the 2049 ending following physics and how it works, and saying, well, from the 12 light years away planet, after Tyrol, which was 4.2 light years away, and then 12 more, that would be another 12 years. And then another would be 6 more years, but it would be 8 or 9, really, and then it would be 2049. All that stuff is like, no, don't do that. Fix it somehow. So I have this ending footage where older Dana Sterling, who's like 30, comes in and says, "Oh, it's 2049 now, and it took you forever to get back from Optera, homeworld to the Invid. Just let the guy intervene, the cat guy, and have him intervene and push them ahead." So another 7 or 8 months have gone by instead of years, and it's only 2032 and they get back. And we did the Love Live Alive parody ending by saying that somebody got pregnant. But that means that they're not going to do any more of them. That means that, okay, by putting that in there, okay, they're not going to do one where we run around and hang out with Remy's baby. No, we're not going to do that. That'd be dumb. But yes, well, since Remy is basically, yeah. Well, yeah, there's a niece that just had a baby, so Remy is basically her. So, but it'd be funny if we threw that in there. But it's an homage. But it's not her. It's basically playing the same character and the Alison Strawberry, from the G1. So yeah, we have a lot of funky stuff in the last act there. Dana is only a few months older. And I threw in that line in there. I was thinking, why not? They're home. Everything's okay. Robotech is saved. Transformers is saved. Yay! The non-plus battle is part of it, and that's just the fun. They couldn't fight the sorceress Regis because they really couldn't, and it would have been over in like 6 minutes. So basically, we had like her. It's in the script like that, incidentally. She just uses powers, and they keep beating the Sentinels. But yeah, they have the kaiju, and then it's a Trypticon. It's a Trypticon. It's a Titan's Trypticon. I think Remy is a Black Widow figure. I think that's who that is. But yeah, there's and Tall Spike Zor is the Ryu guy from Street Fighter Transformers, and Ritter is M. Bison from Street Fighter Transformers. That's who he is. And it turns out that the Crimson Warrior that had the Matrix and defeated them all along was not Ritter, it was probably a Tallspike Zor, and not Tallspike Zor, but it was the other one. It was the Zor, the girl, Zor, six Zor, yeah. So yeah, there's not really an afterthought thing. I want to take this, put it together, and yeah, or Thursday is a little while off, so maybe. But we'll see now that it's in the can. Yeah, and we wanted to get it done tonight, so we got it done tonight, and yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I did change the 2049 ending. Tag this immediately onto the end of it, even though that the faux bridge doesn't really look that much like the bridge. Just imagine that it is, because it's close enough. Yeah, I tried to do it in close-ups of the characters so that they didn't really look completely different. It's fine. It's an animated fan film thing that clearly, then they got to the end, they ran out of money. But yeah, the all the kaiju pieces should be in there. You can put them together. And no, the cities don't fight. There was going to be originally, the cities are going to fight each other, and there's going to be the bases are going to shoot at each other and stuff like that, and like at the end of Macross Delta. And we decided not to do that. Just go with the script that was actually filmed. We don't need to have the bases fighting each other. Is that any better than having Trypticon Godzilla show up? No, it's not. Just do that. That was in the script. Do that. Don't need to add any other stuff. It's like sometimes there was a character, sometimes a character wasn't there. Like there was a grunt character in the story, one of the Joes. He was changed completely to somebody else because it was way easier to just keep showing the lion guy, just having him be him. So the lion manifests to them as well as the other ones because of the space magic. I'm assuming that after the Cybertronium fell to the planet's surface and all the humans couldn't survive there, so they had to be in a spaceship of some kind, the Kaiju or the Veritex, or in the base. And presumably, once the Cybertronium landed and came down, all of the magic stuff disappeared, and it's kind of implicit in there. And the twist ending, which is in the story, is that although I made it a little more literal because it's a little mystical and weird and doesn't make sense. I made it a little more literal. The reason that the Sentinels were able to charge at Star Singer at the end is because he wasn't there anymore. He'd been blown up along with everyone else, and he and the Regis had been blown up. And she was also they're both non-corporeal, and she planned to take over the universe or whatever. So yeah, they were basically, they got Oppenheimer, they got blown up by the nuke. And they were basically in the ethereal plane or Silicon Valhalla, and they were gone. She thought she's going to take over the universe, but she isn't. She can't. She's a ghost. She's been blasted into limbo, that same limbo subspace that Ritter would travel through. They can't get back though because they're ghosts. They're stuck there. Also, I thought it would be funny if I know this last act of about 60 pages did not mention anything about the doppelgangers at all because they weren't really in the story anymore. Sheba did not write about them. Just Sheba wrote this one. So I threw in a gag that on the kaiju, one of the Dops had surrendered and decided to join the Robotechs. And they said, "Fine, come with us." And she's just standing there. And they're, "Oh yeah, that one. She surrendered and she wanted to be one of us." So we let her. It was pretty funny. Yeah. So they everything seems to be cool. So figure out the aliens and stuff. I don't think it would be any problem. We lost a piece of toy furniture that can't find now. That was for the characters. I don't know where it is. It rolled away. Yeah, so great. But yeah, here we have the end for the evening. There, it's done. It's done. So we got to put it together. Okay, Robotech gag stuff at the end. Not meant to break time and travel. The end here on the 12th. Because we kind of want to close off all the threads. We want to do like an 80s sort of thing and close some threads. So yeah. Do that. So, action. This is Calcat, the Calicatster. This is the 12th of September. This is the end of the film shoot. And we decided to do some gag stuff at the last minute. The Remy joke is a nod to Love Live Alive, but we decided not to circumvent that because Remy is not a main character in that show, and vis-a-vis it's the silly Love Live Alive ending where they added the Tommy Yoon people added Sarah is pregnant. We made it. There's been a running gag through the whole thing about that. In the Space Bridge stories, they established that she wasn't. She was lying. Well, in this one, Remy is. So it's fine. Actually, the relative already had her baby, but anyway, a couple days ago. So, but the character, she was not playing by the character. It was just a homage. So it made no sense for Sierra, the Invid lady, to be pregnant with Lancer, because two reasons. One reason being Lancer is gay and doesn't like girls. He might be kind of bi, but no, he's gay. He's completely gay. So no, he's not interested. Other reason is she's an Invid creature. She cannot transform into a human like a Zentradi would, because Zentradis are basically humanoid, and they have humanoid genes. The story explored the nature of their genes and stuff like that, the robotechnology, the shapings, and then metallic magic versions of it, and whatever, the Cybertronium, and it explored all the ins and outs and things like that. It explored the first two acts of this particular episode were about, the first 2 hours, mainly about resolving the story arc with the other guys. Kind of like in the second act, where the first part of that, the first act of that is about the Decepticons solving something that has to do with the energy and the energy fields and all that. Before going on back to the doppelgangers and Adon and all that stuff. And then going into that. So it's kind of a bookend. So the third act had to be the bookend with the Transformers. Just like the first act of part 2 was the bookend. So it's all together. And everything comes together. And not much of a space battle, but you have a giant kaiju walking around, and you have 5 Decepticons, basically, that are a threat. They're going to get killed. It's going to happen. But yeah, and there's really only 5 or 6 Autobots, too, in the story, so it's kind of odd. Yeah, we couldn't do a big, epic Invid versus Robotech battle, obviously. They didn't make it any Invid. They made Invid toys, and some of them. Officer's Pod and some of the other ones. We have them, or at least we did, and they're quite banged up, and they wouldn't have looked good at all. So we didn't use any of them. So the idea of making Robotech meets the Transformers instead, and not using them. And doing that, and in the third act, the energy field that was affecting the humans is no longer there, but the Queen it generates a robotic one called the Cybertronium field that comes down. The robotic one affects the robots and makes them think they're going to lose, so that there's some tension, basically. It's in the script by Sheba. Sheba was related to Raksha, as you can tell, she wanted the Decepticons to win, but we didn't want the Decepticons to win, so it kind of fudged it a little bit. She would have had the Decepticons. She also was at the convention. The Fanime with the snake lady, Raksha. They were both there. I thought Raksha was it was Sheba. She said, "I'm Sheba." Oh, Raksha's over there. Okay, so you're the Calcat guy. All right, cool. Calcat march cards, cool. Want to pet the snake? Yeah. But yes, the slashy thing about Starscream is in the script. It was taken out, but then we put it back, so it's in the script. That had to happen, and I made a joke in the joke. Those scenes at the end are like not post credits are in it and the concerts in it. Just make it a little longer. It doesn't need to be a little longer, but I wanted to have closure for the characters. Absolute closure, so that you get the idea of, okay, this is not the ending of Robotech where they didn't find the SDF-3. This is not the ending of Love Live Alive where they don't find the SDF-3. This is this is closure. So we find out that Apollonicus is in the Netherworld, their Silicon Valhalla, with Streets. They're in the Silicon Valhalla, and Streets is now his guardian. He's leading him along to the afterlife, which is funny. And the Invid, the of course the Regent, Regis, yeah, Regis is there too. The Regent and Starscream and the Regis are also in the afterlife, and it's a perdition thing. And they're in it, and they're like, oh yeah, well, we have, and like they're bickering to each other, and Starscream said, and it's because I saw this very terribly done short treks thing that I complained about on the other channel, where they were punching down on minorities, but they were making a joke thing about Earth idioms and punching down, and the joke was that all the Earth idioms were driving Kirk's crew to want to mutiny, be mad at him, and that's not what the Me Too movement was. The Me Too movement was, and the cancel culture movement, and the woke is not that defined. It's more like asshole misogynist men and some women, but mostly men, had the big show, and now they don't have it as much, and they're really mad about that. That's all that incel stuff is too. Asshole men that don't get laid, can't get laid, no one wants to screw them. They are like, oh, we're upset. They're canceling us. They're not canceling you. You just deserve to get whatever, comes. So they wrote this story where so to write the joke properly, instead of Kirk in the Earth idioms, the joke would properly be, the joke is to a juxtaposition. It's not punching down. It's making fun of an incident, a situation, but not a culture, not people that are under you, nothing like that. Not minorities. No, don't do that. That's not funny. Not marginalized groups. Make fun of a situation. So the three Decepticons are like, we're bickering back and forth. And one of them says, well, at least we're not incels. And then the Queen Lady says, well, yeah, I had sex with you, both of you. So, yeah, so you're not. You had sex. That's the joke. That's the end of the joke right there. But they're in perdition, and they can't do anything about it anyway. So they can't take over the world. It's over. Then we have another interesting scene where we've got another interesting and I want them all in there. It doesn't matter if it's over 3 hours. It's my thing. I want to do it. So yeah, the robots had sex. But anyway, then we cut to a bizarre. Then we have it to the Magnus scene. We have we have Ultra Magnus or Maximus show up and say to the three Zor Primes that are there. The Zor Prime, the Zor Lords. They've become the Zor Lords. They've met Optimus Prime. But we don't see Optimus Prime in the story. And he tells them there's a new mission. We're going to go on a new mission to Liberta, the planet from the original Masters saga, the original Space Cavalry Southern Cross. They found the planet since the Sentinels takes place during that. It's a sort of a sequel, but it's not. It's really a behind the action thing, which is what Tommy Yoon was getting with behind the action of the invasion that was the Shadow Chronicle. But the problem with that is it didn't go any further. I did. I finished it. So you get to see the Shadow Children, the Space Bridge, and the Shadow Chronicles and all that. I did the last act of the Shadow Chronicles. You get to see it right here on my channel. But yes, I did. I finished it. I got Rick Hunter home and crew and went on from there. That's what you do. You get them home and they go on from there. And I know that in the Japanese version, they said, no, the invasion was never connected to Rick Hunter and the expedition at all. It was another show. Just like Space Cavalry Southern Cross was another show. Southern Cross was not related to Robotech in the original '83 Macross. It was part of another universe set in 2121 on the planet Liberta. So I referenced that. I said they're going to go to Liberta, launch an expedition out there, and apparently Major Marissa Fairborn is going to help lead the mission, or Colonel Marissa Fairborn is going to lead the mission. So she's now a colonel. They promoted her a lot to a colonel. See, she's going to go on the mission. So they're gonna and they've decided in honor of the other universe that they're gonna name it the Space Cavalry Southern Cross, and go off and found that planet. So, 100 some years later, when the French girl that looks like Dana shows up, kind of looks like Dana shows up, that actually happens in this universe. Yes, but the in-bit invasion didn't really technically happen in this universe, or hasn't happened yet. We're not going to do that. We are not going to do a version. We've already done that. The Shadow Sagas were already done. We don't need to do that. That's why the robot earlier is in perdition. The Regent didn't possess him in this universe to come back and be in the Space Bridge and the Shadow stories. The End of the Circle and then the other ones. Yeah, that's right. The End of the Circle and then Space Bridge and then Shadows and Shadow Children. Oh, they're not there. So this universe, that didn't happen. It happened differently. It's a multiverse. This is how you do a multiverse, DC. This is how you do a multiverse. You set up your multiverse so that your series goes along and you follow these characters, and maybe they discover that they're not the same characters as the other ones. They're a different group. They're an Elseworld kind of thing. Well, you did the little Elseworld with DC. Yeah. Marvel. This is also how you do it. Yeah, you're doing a little bit by Marvel. Better than DC, but still, yeah. There were just too many Avenger characters. But we aren't going to go on a tangent about that. This is about Robotech. The next one was, but in Macross, the series, there was a canon prequel sequel and a canon sequels of Macross that established that the SDF-2, not the SDF-3, got lost, the Mega Road, and that it actually, the ship had been possessed by the proto-creatures and the proto-devlins and something else, and Lady M had become the computer in the ship and took over the SDF, and then they showed a fight between two SDFs in Macross Delta, and this episode that one of them used to be the SDF-2. Somehow she got regenerated. They fight. We didn't want to do that in this one. We had the ships and the spaceships and all that. We could have done, but it wasn't in the script. We did not want to go there, so we just ended up not doing it. I'm just saying, no, let's keep it simple. We don't have enough money to pull that off, and we're not getting paid. And it's the register and the actor strike, so we'll just do that and as low as possible. So yeah, the Robotech and Macross being different, and so the Invid invasion in the original Macross version, it wasn't Macross. It was Space Climber Matsupieda, and in that one, it was supposed to be Earth, having been taken over by the Invid, and the expeditionary forces were from Jupiter and Mars. Mars and then Jupiter. It had nothing to do with Rick Hunter. It wasn't there. And Scott Bernard flying off at the end to go nowhere implies that he dies. So that's even... So yeah, it's like, where's he going to go? There's no fleet out there. They're all destroyed. Where's he going? He's going to go die. Because, yeah, that's the end. So he didn't actually do anything. Turns out he died. We weren't going to show Lin Min-Mei. But then I was doing the sketch here with the other thing. With Rick Hunter and his future self from 2053 having a talk. And basically Rick Hunter's future self convinces him to, in a very heartwarming scene, ripping off the Barbie movie with Shanley Handler at the end. I was ripping it off, yeah. I was paying homage to, ripping off the Barbie movie. But I was doing it a little more like McCoy, and I was doing it more like Kirk meets Kirk. Like if 92-year-old Shatner shows up, meets Kirk. It'd be like that. But he decided that it would be more like, he kind of convinces him, you need to end it with a concert. So, put together the concert. And it's all heartwarming stuff. So they put out together a concert. Goes on a little long. but just long enough. It's not as long as the one in Shadow Children and Shadow Return. That one's longer. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to do that, and then the Transformers show up the concert. It's very similar to that story, but not as many people, more intimate. It turns out that Max went off and found Minmay, probably per instructions. But in this universe, Minmay, there was never a Miss Macross contest because the SDF-1 never left Earth. And so there was never that. So she was never a singer. Her life career went the other way, and she became somebody else. She became a store owner and stuff. And Lynn Kyle, they had a kid with Lynn Kyle. That happened, but Roy in the other universe, and this is even a different universe from Space Bridge. So you can watch this trilogy, and yeah, it's different. It's a different timeline, really. You can watch the other ones; they end. This one ends too. Yeah, they get back in 2032 with this version. We changed the ending. Originally, the ending was going to be 2049. It's way off in the future, and no. That's going to be confusing. Let's just reset it. Have the cat guy show up and reset it because no, make it 2032. That's enough. Make it during the Master Saga, which it would have been. So yeah, it's the Master Saga. But we're not going to do that because they already did it in Robotech and Macross. No reason to do that. So we have Minmay show up, and it's supposed to kind of be an amalgamation because I think the original actress that played Minmay in the 80s is gone. She's no longer with us. But Sue Blue is alive, who played the other one. And Reba West, I don't know if Reba West I think she might still be around. Maybe not, though. So it had the voice kind of sound trembly a little bit because she doesn't really know how to sing anymore. She didn't learn. But also I made her sound more like she was an old lady, because she would be. This is 2032. She'd be like ancient. So, but yeah, they're impressed just because it's been made. Maybe they're familiar with her. Maybe she's been in the background. Because these stories took place over weeks. Like the first one takes place over almost like a couple months. The second one takes place over about a month and a half. The third one takes place over like less than a month. It's a little quicker. In between, you have time jumps, things like that. But really, it was 2029 at Tyrol and 2032 when they get out back, which makes a lot more sense. This universe is a little different, and the other Rick Hunter is a little different. As the future Rick Hunter pointed out, it didn't exactly happen my way. This is what happened. He did hint that that he went to Transformers Transtech Land, which was funny, to the black hole. In Tommy Wiseau. So that's canon with Robotech, which is funny. Transtech, the original Transtech, is canon with Robotech. Yeah. But yes, this one is canon more with Macross, which is why I reference Macross songs. And we also have a cameo by Firebomber guy. He's still alive. Yeah, he's still around. He shows up. But it's younger Firebomber guy. It's not Firebomber guy from 2046 and 2048, who would be very, very old. It's Firebomber guy from 2020, 23, 2032. Well, a little bit later, 2032. But yeah, except they don't say who he is. He just shows up. So fans will, that's that guy. Okay. And I like how in the background you can kind of see Rick and Max from the G1 in the corner. But yeah, then the triumvirate was the three Zor Lords, the Autobots. We have Paul Spike and Optimo Soar and Going to the Side, like in those movies. Yeah, but it's okay if you do that. If you go like this, that's bad. That's what they were doing. They were going like this. You don't do that. Yeah, they stay on this. The here is fine. Here is fine. Here is not. Okay, that's how you do the frame shot. I think a lot of these director guys aren't looking through the camera. That's what it is. I had to do something a little more playful for the ending. I might have rambled on, but so what? It's my stuff. I'm doing it. This may be the last time you see all the Joes like this in the concert, and I figured, let's do it. I mean, yeah, I'm not giving up the GI Joes, of course, but yeah, like this setting is the final chapter of that. So we have all the cast lined up like they're gonna do a bow, kind of through it vicariously through the concert. We have the Transformers show up late. They show up after they sang. But then, to be hilarious and cute, they start singing Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, the Unicron, the song. And then Minmay takes over, and she starts singing some of the songs from the movie, which is funny. So there's a little bit of the touch and a little bit of Unicron song, which is funny. But yeah, then it ends. Then it's over. Yeah. Oh, it's over. Oh. We don't have a script for any future ones, but yeah, there's no script. These were based on the lexicon stories of T.L. Ahrens and Sheba and Roy and Dwayne M. and Raksha. So it was a cast from that. T.L. Ahrens' Testament. We did a lot of Testament in this, but we took out most of the violence. Because apparently he had issues regarding the characters that he do. Or at least, let's just say he had issues with his characters and he was out to them. We don't know for sure whether he had other issues, but it's clear that it was a very intense series. It's the one that he let us do. But yeah, this one, yeah. Get out his counseling demons and so forth. Because he was very, very nonplussed about the family sitcom kind of idea. Much less fun than Paper Flowers, the original short story that we worked into part of an episode. But yeah, and we reference him as a candy maker at one point. Also, it's kind of fun that in the Afterglow thing, we throw in a name, Jason Cranston. That is somebody from junior high, actually. But back at Pine Hill, it was a high school, junior high and high school, and he was also a big Robotech fan. So I was Max Sterling and he was Rick Hunter, which doesn't make sense, but I was Max Sterling. So I thought I should reference the ship is called the Cranston. It's named after. And also the joke being that Admiral Calcat is there somewhere, and he named it that after his school. It was like, okay, the Cranston, right? Yeah. They called me a Robotech god or Robotech guru. It's just that I watch a lot of Robotech. I'm not really an expert on it. One of them, though, apparently, it turns out, yeah. And Transformers. I think I'm more Transformers guru than anything. Definitely the grandfather of Transformer fan films. All other Transformer fan. You've seen the Trans Tech. You've seen the release of Trans and Trans 2 and the originals. That was in the 80s. There was no YouTube yet. It was all done on a crappy shitty camera. It was, it's there for you to watch. And all the other ones, well, I had to overdub the audio because it had music. But lots of music. That we just cribbed from other shows. But you don't want to show that. So Space Bridge, when we put that on YouTube, we had to take out put in our own music. Yeah, there's never going to be a released score of that. It's just it would be mono and very bad. No, there is a musical score to this, but it's like 3 suites we did with Klecken, with Kitty Key, and they're just sweet. We're not going to release that either. I don't think we're releasing that either because it might mess up the algorithm thing, and YouTube might say, "Oh no, those songs on your Robotech were copyrighted by Calcat." Get flagged by my own stuff. That would be funny. No, we're not doing that. But yes, so yeah. Also, I threw in a line of a couple of lines in the concert from the '80s song "Twilight," which is not from the Twilight series, but Twilight, just for fun, because it's an '80s song. It's from this period. It's from it's the infamous song played over the it was sort of a Japanese botcon over there. That was one of the first ones. Yeah, so I thought it would be funny to throw that in there. But yeah, yeah, it had to end with a concert because it's either ending with a wedding or a concert, and that's how you do it. Back into Shakespeare's day, he was saying, "End it with a wedding. Comedy should end with a wedding, dark comedy." But no, it ends with a concert, space concert, concerts from the future of space. Yeah, so Robotech meets the Transformers. The sequel to Transformers meets Robotech is done. The hell is that for your protoculture Transformer addicts? Plastic addicts. Protoculture addict. Protoculture was originally just culture. It was the Me Too movie. It wouldn't be the Me Too movie because the Japanese were very male-oriented back then. Still kind of are. So no, it wouldn't be about that. No, protoculture was just culture, like running around. Like it wasn't a fuel. It's made of fuel in this one. They confused it with the fuel, but we've been there before. We've gone over that. Yeah. So yeah, that's that Street Fighter Ryu guy. And Grimlock is Beast Sword. No. Ew. That's not going to happen in the movie. Yeah. Ew. Because who hasn't taken their G.I. Joe action figures, which are highly posable, and done something like that? I mean, come on, you've all done it.